You have to check every bulb. Oops, a little knot here. Work on that.
Ernest Saves Christmas. It's a shame kids aren't growing up with Ernest P. Worrell, a character actor Jim Varney brought to life whose background is summed up by simply saying he's someone who knows everything about nothing. The opening credits have been slammed by a lot of people because they don't exactly understand where this movie would get off using Coca-Cola Santa ads and having it to do anything with the movie. Keep in mind, this is an Ernest movie, meaning you check your brain at the door because it's just stupid, cheesy fun. It's also only the second Ernest film that they did, so they're probably experimenting, and it kind of set the tone for future films of a similar nature, borrowing from the elements around it. It's not really surprising either when you think about why they might have chose to do this. Number 1, director John Carey was originally the vice president of an advertising agency. Number 2, the Ernest character was created by Carey's company as a pitchman for products in the 80s. Number 3, many of those commercials, as you can see, were used to advertise Coca-Cola products like Mellow Yellow, Sprite, and Tab.
Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Know what I mean?
And finally, Coke has strong ties to Christmas anyway, so they probably figured, why not? The story starts with St. Nick flying into Orlando, not by sleigh, but by plane. So why fly to Orlando, you might ask? Well, to hire your replacement, of course, but you have to look professional. After all, a suit and tie looks a lot better than coming in wearing your work clothes. As he arrives, Santa makes small idle chit-chat with one of his fellow passengers as they wait for their bags. Eventually you can tell the guy gets a little fed up with Mr. Kringle's chit-chat, or he just starts ignoring him.
I have trouble recalling who was naughty and who was nice, who asked for a toy truck, and who wanted a bicycle.
Sounds like a database problem.
Finally, after a few minutes, we get our first look at Ernest, who has almost a different job in every movie, ranging from garbage man to janitor, and in this one as a taxi driver. So he connects with Santa at the airport after driving one of his passengers to the brink of a mental breakdown, and takes him to the Orlando Children's Museum. And you gotta admire somebody who puts Christmas lights up in his cab.
Know what I mean?
Santa also takes the initiative to ship his reindeer over on a cargo airline on hold for helper elves.
But you know what, that's probably Amish. It could even be Quaker.
Meanwhile, Ernest does his best to make his mark along the stereotypical taxi driver.
I have an almost supernatural feel for the road beneath my tires.
Along with stopping traffic on the interstate just to grab a fallen Christmas tree.
I'm at one with the Yuletide, know what I mean?
On their drive, they pick up a dine-in dasher who's also a runaway, but won't admit it, and finally arrive at the Children's Museum, and Santa pays Ernest with play money.
What we've got here is a failure to accumulate.
But he lets him go because he's a nice guy and soon afterwards loses his job. Meanwhile, Santa tries talking to his future replacement, but realizes that he's lost his sack and has to find it. It doesn't help his situation a lot that he talks about the taxi driver, Ernest, and how he kept track of him until he was 11, and finally gets booted out of the children's hospital because they think he's nuts. Back at the cargo hold, something's up inside one of the crates. I remember seeing this as a kid, and maybe it was the sudden excitement or the over-the-top scream, but it scared the pants off me.
Wait a minute. Stand fast, Bobby. I think I hear something.
So now these guys have to deal with the reindeer who have all escaped from the crates.
I think those are Latvian goats. Wait a minute. It could be aliens.
His future replacement, a former children's TV show host named Joe, runs off to a movie set to do a test read for a movie called Christmas Sleigh, and hey, what's that? Coke?
When the holidays come along, there's always Coca-Cola.
You know, I'm not gonna fight it anymore. This movie should just have a little Coca-Cola sign in the corner. You know what? In fact, we'll make it simple. There. We'll leave it there. Ernest eventually discovers that his passenger from earlier in the night was Santa after discovering a sack in the back of his truck, and from then on out is off to help old St. Nick, starting by busting him out of jail.
His big red one is the claws.
And that's just the first obstacle, not to mention getting his sleigh and reindeer out of cargo, then getting past security, then talking Joe into leaving the movie project that he's working on, and then talking Joe into becoming Santa. It's quite a film. It also marks Ernest's only trip into space as well.
Nobody moves, nobody dies.
Sure, it has some story issues with some pointless characters and weird situations, but it's directed towards kids, and simply put, it's a campy, cheesy, commercially driven, nostalgic classic right from the get-go.
Thanks, Skippy.